Alright, is it working? I think it's working. So welcome everybody if you're watching today. Welcome to another episode of How to Airbrush. And we're going to be doing a Spider-Man today. So bienvenidos hoy, si están viendo. Bienvenidos a otro episodio de cómo aerografiar. Y hoy vamos a estar aerografiando un Spider-Man. Whoa. Like always, down in the description you'll find the link to both these images, the reference image and the stencil image. Oh my god. And they're completely free to use. You'll also find a link to the frisket that I'm using, which is what I've covered my paper with here. And yeah, I'm gonna walk you guys how I'm gonna make this piece of art here live for you guys on camera. So bienvenidos amigos. Aquí están las imágenes que vamos a usar hoy. Estas imágenes las pueden encontrar completamente gratis en la descripción del video. También van a encontrar links para el material que estoy usando hoy, el frisket y también para el aerógrafo y todos los materiales, la pintura y todo lo que voy a usar hoy para hacer este diseño. Todo lo pueden encontrar abajo en la descripción del video. So, aquí voy a empezar y les voy a enseñar cómo hacer este diseño usando los materiales, pues. Y empezando, estoy usando lo que se llama un gesso board, un watercolor board. Y en eso voy a pintar. So I'm using a watercolor board today to paint on because I want to keep this. I actually want to keep this Spider-Man. This is for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and take some pieces off, and we're gonna start section by section. And I'm gonna start with blue, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and load up blue on my color airbrush. So voy a empezar con el azul. Y tengo negro, gris y blanco ya preparados. Y luego para mi aerógrafo de colores voy a empezar con el azul. Y es el azul bright blue de Createx, el que voy a estar usando. So I'm going to be using bright blue from Createx today. And that's what we're going to be starting off. So I have black, gray, and white already loaded up on their own separate guns. And then I'm going to load up blue, Createx bright blue on my fourth color gun. And this is how we're going to work it today. So starting off, I'm going to take off this rib piece right here. Alright, so empezando voy a quitar esta parte de aquí. Alright, and it goes all the way around. Actually, it shouldn't go all the way around. It should stop right here. Just like that. Put this to the side. Right, and we're gonna focus using our reference picture, right? Now, if you have a tablet, you know, zoom in on the reference picture. So si están usando la referencia de la foto, es muy bueno enfocarse en esta área solamente. Usando un tablet, o si tienen un teléfono, you know, acérquense a esta parte y enfocando esta parte vamos a empezar con nuestra curva. Y aquí se mira que hay un músculo aquí, right? So you can see that there's a muscle here. I'm just going to start by filling that in, and then coming off of this side over here. Clean the dry tip off my gun. Coming off this side, there's a couple of muscle structures here, and then this rest of it pretty self-explanatory. We're going to come back in here and just fill that in. Alright, then we're going to come back in with black. So aquí voy a regresar con negro. Y igual enfocando estas áreas. I'm just going to start right here. Right here. And then we're going to accent what we painted. Darken that area up. right? And make sure you kind of try to match it as best as you can to your reference picture. So if you see that it's dark, make it dark. And just try to get it all in there as best as you can. So, usando la referencia, traten de enfocarse nomás en esta área y usando la referencia, háganlo lo mejor que puedan. And because this is a watercolor board, it's going to absorb the paint like almost instantly, and you're able to just put your pieces back. So ponemos nuestra parte para atrás. Alright, we move on to the next blue area. Right, from there we can leave that there, and we're going to take this piece off. So ya dejando esa área, podemos quitar esta área de aquí. And we're gonna keep all our pieces. We don't throw any of this away just yet. And you gotta be careful not to rip it. Set that aside. Same thing. You want to focus in on your area, so if you're using a tablet or a phone or whatever, you know, kind of get and just focus in on this area here. And we're going to start with the blue again, and you can obviously see that there's some dark areas and there's some light areas, and I don't know if that's just old paint or if that's my airbrush, but I'm just going to wash out this airbrush a little better. Okay, so you come in there and you start shaping it, right, using your reference. So aquí usando la referencia me empiezan a dar forma de color, ¿verdad? Que no nomás es azul, tiene diferentes formas que van en estas áreas, ¿verdad? So not everything is just blue straight up, so you gotta kind of build it up there. Use the reference picture to kind of give you where your tones and your shapes are going. Okay. Go back with black. Just gonna build up what we see. Bust out your French curve here if you see an edge that you need to hit, right, like there. Maybe this one here. So usan su curva para las orillas donde hay sombras muy definidas. Pueden usar su curva y luego ya nomás darle forma usando el negro. This area here is pretty dark. Right. Go ahead and put that back in. Gotta get in the right little spot. And you see the frisket works pretty good. You can take it off, put it back on. That's what you needed to do. It doesn't have to be super extremely sticky, just sticky enough, right? So, usando el frisket se puede quitar, se puede poner otra vez, y si tienen cuidado lo pueden quitar sin romperlo, ¿verdad? Cuidadosamente. Right, we're going to save all our pieces, right, because we're going to put them back in there. Just take that off. And again, just start with glue. All we're doing is just building it up piece by piece. And I start off with the blue because it's one of the darkest colors, it'll hold the best, right? So when we spray red, the red doesn't go over the blue as easy as the blue goes over the red. So again, just moving on to the next piece. Puppy off. Put that over there. We can put our pieces back in here. It's a little bit like doing surgery, I guess. I don't know. Putting stuff out, putting it in, being careful. It all has to be precise. And the other piece fell. Focus on this leg. So, moviéndonos en lado a lado, parte a parte, estamos enfocando las áreas, ¿verdad? Y aquí enfocamos la pierna. So, más cuidadosamente vamos a empezar a darle forma y color. So we just slowly start building up shape and tones, as you see them in the picture. It's always good to use your reference as much as possible, and anywhere you see you might need your French curve. If you're afraid to bring that in, right? You see his thigh right there. And just do your best building up these tones. Use your reference as much as possible. It's actually kind of hard to talk because I'm looking back at the reference and then looking forward and looking back, and really don't have much else to say besides what I'm doing. So focusen en su referencia lo más que puedan. Usen su referencia como un guía. It's all about using your reference as a guide. And don't forget, you can find the links to both these images down in the description. Free to use. And then you can follow along using this tutorial to create your own Spider-Man right at home. Right, so once we got our blue tones in there, we're going to come back in with the black. So ya teniendo nuestros tonos azules, regresamos con el negro. Y usando la referencia empezamos a dar forma. So using our reference, we start building up what we see. And I'm just trying to build it up how I see it. Right, and what the frisket allows us to do is just single out these areas and really focus them in one at a time. And it might look a little weird to you at first, you know, because you're like, hey, what? That doesn't look like the picture, but that's because you have some of these areas covered. You're focusing on this one spot, and that's all we're trying to do right now. We're just getting that one spot in there. You need to come back in with the blue. Like, I feel like this maybe came out a little too dark. Come back in with the blue. So si creen que le salió muy negro, agréguenle un poco de azul. En mi caso yo creo que salió un poco muy negro. Y luego también quiero resaltar aquí un poco más, so voy a traer un poco de negro aquí. Y nomás le voy a resaltar aquí donde está doblada la pierna, ¿verdad? So that's pretty much it for this side. We can go ahead and cover that back up. Right, and it goes right back on. Simple. And then we have the other leg, right? So ya aquí ya tenemos la otra pierna. Y es en dos pedazos, and it's two pieces. So we start off over here with our other piece. And that's why I couldn't pull it up, because it wasn't cut. Let's see. Do that piece in real quick. So ya nomás enfocamos esa partecita de volada, que es muy fácil. Right, get that piece in there. Then what we can do here is quick and simple, is we'll peel off the leg, but we're gonna do it from this side, right here, and we're gonna bring it all the way up to where it's cut. Right, and then we start focusing this area here, which has a great big shadow. Across here. And the reason we focus this area first is because we have this cut here, and that's going to give us this shadow. Once we fill this in right here, Come back, reshadow this. And I didn't cover that area in because I'm mixing my shadows from this in with that. Once we get that kind of shadowed in there, now we can take out the whole leg. So usando esa parte de ahí usamos para hacer la sombra y luego ya podemos quitar la pierna completa, ¿verdad? So now we can take off this whole leg there, set it aside. Then we can focus this. Right, aquí ya podemos enfocar esta parte de aquí. Right. I'd like to just start right here with the knee. And these exercises just really starting to get a little more advanced, I guess, but you know, if you really want to create something cool, it's worth taking the time and the effort to just work on your little bit of freehand skills, cut up these stencils, and really show people what you can do. I'm gonna bring this shadow all the way up. Back in with the black. Right. Really just focus in these areas. Again, I'm just kind of focused, so I'm not really talking much, but you kind of get the point. I'm just building up the area here, and I believe that's the last blue, right? Actually, no, wait, we have this little bit right here. Bring this down. Sí, ya nomás aquí lo último en azul les viene siendo esto de aquí. ¿Ah? Podemos poner nuestra pierna para atrás. Right, so we can take our leg, go ahead and put it back in place. Right. And we could fill in that. So right there. Bam. All right, now we have all those done. We can start working on the red. And I think I'm gonna start right here, right underneath his head. So ya aquí teniendo eso acabado, podemos empezar con el rojo. Actually, no. Before I do the red, I'm gonna do the eyes. Almost forgot. So antes de hacer el rojo, voy a hacer los ojos de volada con con negro, and these are just quick, fast with black. I'm just gonna do the outside edge. Right. I just need to get this outline in there before I do the red. Make it a lot easier and nicer. So I'm just gonna take some black. Just fill these in. So voy a tomar un poco de negro y nomás rellenar estas partes de aquí. Take black, fill those in. Simple. Nothing too crazy about that. Take our piece here. Put it back in there. Now we can take this one. Y ahora sí ya podemos quitar esta parte de aquí. And the red, I don't think we're gonna need to cover the red. So we could just start setting them aside, off to the side here. So ya el rojo no creo que lo tenemos que poner para atrás. So el rojo los voy a empezar a quitar y los voy a empezar a poner para un lado, ¿verdad? So empezando aquí con el rojo, voy a cambiar al rojo. So I'm just gonna switch to red. So we're all done with the blue. I've switched off to red, and we're going to start in this piece right here, and all we're going to do is build up the tones, right? We're not going to worry about the lines just yet. Stuck in that airbrush or something. Alright, so we just start building it up. There's definitely something stuck in this airbrush. So anyway, got the red in there, and what I'm gonna do with the red is instead of going at black and black, right, I'm gonna take a little bit of gray, and I'm gonna come in with the gray first. So con el rojo voy a empezar con gris en vez de negro, y le voy a empezar a dar forma con el gris al rojo, ¿verdad? So using that red and the gray, I'm just going to start building up some of these tones around here. And that's really going to start giving it shape, right? Giving that area shape. And as soon as it dries. Come back in with a little more red. And then hit it with black. So ya al final ya pueden regresar por negro y más darle acento al gris. And all we're doing is accenting the gray. And use your reference picture as much as you can. Focus in these areas, right? black. I like to do, that's fine. And we're just gonna work our way down. Sí, aquí ya podemos empezar hacia abajo. Quitar las partes entre la araña. So I'm gonna take off all these parts in between the spider here. Oh, did I take off the wrong ones? Oh man, I took off the wrong ones. Make sure you take off the right ones. Might help. All off, and then we can focus in on this area here. And here we kind of have his pec cut in on this here. Right, so cut that pec in there. Same thing on the other side. It's about right there. So le empezamos a cortar las áreas de sus músculos. Usando la referencia. Con rojo. So we just start building up the red. Up by taking off the wrong ones there, that's fine. Alright, then we're going to start building up his abs. You really don't have to take too much time on this because they're pretty simple. Just lines and shadows going around. Come back in with some black. Y ya nomás regresando con el negro, dándole acento al rojo, ¿verdad? Just accent what we did with the red. A little more red on there. Black areas. Blend everything together. Okay. Moving on, we can move on to this arm here. way down in the fingers. Go ahead and get rid of those. Actually, let's go with some fingers one at a time. One stroke with red, one stroke with black on the bottom. Repeat that process for all fingers. So take it off. There's some red. A little bit of black on the bottom. Same thing with the next one. Take it off. There's some red. Lo estoy quitando, poniendo un poco de rojo y luego un poco de negro sobre la orilla. A los dedos, ¿verdad? Uno por uno. Y luego ya podemos quitar el dedo final. And take off the final finger. And then you can work in that area. And this area is pretty much black. Right. So doing a few turns up here. Black over the red. And a little bit of red over the black. Putting the red over that black really just makes that black really kind of blend in really good. Oh, that's not black, that's gray. And you can see the gray will work really good in some areas to build it up, and then in other areas you just want to go straight black because it's so dark. So it's all how you want to play it. But I just wanted to make sure I include that in there so you could, if you want to build it up by tones, maybe you're making yours a lot bigger than mine. You know, it might be good to start in with some gray first before you go full ham with some red or with some black. Then we can take off our areas around the head. Vamos a quitar estas áreas alrededor de la cabeza. Alright, we can take this off. The rest of this hand off. And then take these fingers down here off. Right. I believe that's white. Yeah, that's white. So getting focused in these areas here. Vamos a enfocando estas áreas, empezando aquí. Vamos a empezar a dar forma. As you can tell, I'm using my finger to just kind of hold this down if I see that it's moving. I just come in and hold it down with my finger. That's why a lot of people always look at my hands and be like, why do you got painted fingernails or something, you know, and like this. It's really just for painting and using it to hold down. And it's really just create text, it's not too bad. Maybe I should be wearing gloves, I don't know. But anyway, just building this up, so aquí dándole forma, dándole tonas y agregándole detalle de las áreas que se ven. Come back in and cut it in with the black, right? Add those black tones. We can take this off already. I think the only one we really need to worry about is this one over here. Actually, that piece is gone, which is not what I wanted. So, put this in there. Focus that area. And really all I'm doing is painting by numbers almost, you know? I remember doing that as a kid. So all you're doing is have all these squares, all these little shapes, and you just gotta follow your design and paint it in one at a time, right? Go ahead and take off the rest of this red, which is this piece here, this piece here, this part, this part. Alright, so you get an idea of what we're doing now. This looks pretty dark, so not too worried about it. I'm just gonna hit this with some red. Come back in with the black. Kind of blend it in right there. You can need a towel. Put that edge right there. Over here, same thing. Just kind of gonna hit this edge. Come back. Maybe hit those with a little bit of red. Just so the red pops a little bit. Almost forgot about this little piece right here. Black. Okay, we go ahead and take off most of this. So we can go ahead and take off everything that's blue that we already painted. Wait. We have this belt. It's red. So make sure you. It's always good to double check. So I always keep these around so we can do this. Really just take it all off now. Head on there for now. got a little bit of underspray there from me taking the wrong ones off. That's my fault. So you can see we're getting a nice, clean looking Spider-Man. Take this guy off. This piece here. That's also supposed to be Put that in red. Blend it in. This whole leg is pretty dark, so this doesn't really matter. But I think that's pretty much all of it taken off. That piece needs to be glued down. Cool. So right, once you have it like this, we can take off the head, which would be the last piece of the Spider-Man. So aquí ya podemos quitar la cabeza, que viene siendo la última parte del Spider-Man, ¿verdad? And we've already done those in with black, so we could go in with our transparent red, and we don't have to worry too much about the red going over the black. This is transparent red, and we'll just work it in, nice and easy. Alright, come back in with a little black, and there he kind of has his nose here. So usando el negro aquí ya le damos forma a su nariz. And that shadow kind of goes over that way, and it comes down this way over his cheek. I'm gonna give his head a little bit of a round. There you go. And for all this stuff here, what we're gonna do is take some gray. Right, so para la araña aquí vamos a tomar un poco de gris y vamos a quitar los ojos, right? So here we can take off the eyes. Right, we're gonna take some gray at this point, and we're gonna work on these white areas using the gray. Right, so coming in here first. Right, you can use your French curve here to really make sure you shield off your areas, right, where you don't want the gray to hit maybe. Build up his chest right here. Right on top of the spider. You can really throw the gray over all the colors. It's transparent. It's not really going to cover anything, so you don't have to worry about it, you know, covering too much. Then maybe come back in with a little black on those areas. So ya aquí ya regresamos con el negro y usando nuestra curva resaltamos unas partes. Escondemos donde está la plantilla, so we use our French curve here and a little bit of dark highlights, right, to hide our edges to accent some of them, maybe like here. And I'm just gonna throw a little bit of black, and that kind of gives that little curve in the design here, a little bit of accent. And then maybe I'm gonna come down on these abs and just cut up a little highlight there. Right, that gives the highlights a little bit of a added depth, I guess. And then we're gonna come back in and just a little bit on the rest of that spider. You see that there? And that gives his abs that whole kind of like, you know, curved, but like really sticking out kind of look, kind of exaggerated almost. I could really come back in here and just, you know, darken in some areas. So, moving back a little bit, just make sure you get a good view on it. Go. And we got all that pretty much all nice and shaped up pretty good. And oh, with this arm here. Bam. And then maybe we come back in with a little bit of white. So ya aquí regresamos con un poco de blanco y vamos a resaltar un poco de áreas. So maybe we want to just bring out some of these areas a little bit and use our French curve. Maybe we want to accent that muscle a little bit, right? We want that to stick out. This area right here, maybe we darkened it too much when we did it. We want that to stick out. Right, just a little bit right there. You want some muscle definition coming in. Right. Go in your light tones in there. You combine, maybe you want some highlights to go through the red and through the blue, right, to combine those two things so that they're not separate. So a lo mejor unas de esas luces altas combinan el azul y el rojo, ¿verdad? Resaltan entre las dos. So le damos pasado entre los dos, ¿verdad? Para combinarlo. Y eso combina todo nuestro diseño combinado. Right, so here at this point, if you're going to do your lines, this is probably a good point to do your lines. This is really small, so let me see if I could maybe get these in freehanded in there. But I would really rather use a different airbrush with reduced paints. Maybe I can. So ya aquí ya le podemos agregar sus líneas, o lo que se ven de las líneas, y solamente sobre el rojo. So we're only going to add these in over the red. Just a little freehand there, right? Moving on to these. Getting some nice fine lines in there. And if you're not good at freehand lines, right, you could always use a brush and just come back in with a brush. And just add these in. Like a regular paintbrush, this is a fine tip brush. You can really just get these in. Ay, si no son buenos a mano libre así hacer estas líneas, pueden regresar con una brocha fina y agregar esas líneas. Go. Add the lines over here. Over here. Just lines. Estamos agregando estas líneas finamente. Until it gets glued down. We got pretty much all the lines in there. I don't know, it looks like a pretty good Spider-Man already. What else? Well, we're gonna do these letters. And in the picture design, they're just white. But I remember my Spider-Man having a yellow Spider-Man logo. And so I want this to be yellow. I grew up having the old Spider-Man. So este logotipo aquí yo lo quiero hacer amarillo. A lo mejor un poco de rojo, ¿verdad? Que en el diseño nomás está blanco, pero yo quiero que mi parte de detrás del dibujo que sea blanco, ¿verdad? Yo no quiero ese rojo alrededor. Right, so I don't want that red background. So it's kind of the reason I'm kind of wanting to color these letters is that I don't want that red background. I just want a white background on my Spider-Man, and that's what I want, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take this off. Alright, so yeah, quitando eso. And I'm gonna start off with some yellow. Actually, I'm just gonna come back in with red. I'm just gonna blend it off the top. So usando un poco de rojo aquí, lo voy a combinar de la parte de arriba hacia abajo. Lo voy a sombrear pues con el rojo. Then I'm gonna come back in with some yellow. Y aquí ya voy a cambiar el amarillo. come back in with the yellow. Make sure we use our shield here so we don't get yellow over our Spider-Man. And just fill those letters. So aquí regresando con el amarillo, usando la curva para no agarrar, no poner amarillo sobre nuestro Spider-Man. Y además le vamos a rellenar aquí con amarillo. Throw that in nice and good. Bam. Se va rellenando eso con el amarillo. Y lo último que vamos a hacer es quitar nuestra línea, ¿verdad? So we're going to take off our spider line here, which is the only piece right now that is not painted. So we'll go ahead and take that off. And we're going to take some gray. So, tomando un poco de gris y vamos a empezar de acá de afuera. Y nomás nos vamos a sombrear hacia adentro, ¿verdad? Y luego vamos a traer líneas de gris finas. Yeah, so we're going to bring some nice gray lines down into our web. Going down. And just sporadic lines. I'm not really following a pattern. As you can see, it's just kind of like blended a little bit here and a little bit there. Same thing down here. Just kind of building the shape. You can use your reference for this. Come back in with a little bit of black. Just fine tune. Y aquí regresando con el negro, le vamos a dar líneas finas a nuestra línea. All I'm doing is come back in, adding these nice fine lines. I'm just adding these in freehand. I'm not following the picture at this point. All shaped in all the way to the end. Bam. And now at the very tip, I'm just going to add a little bit of black. So aquí en la puntita de estos nomás les voy a poner un poquito de sombreado de negro. I'm just going to shade in a little bit of black on all this. And that's it. After all that, we can go ahead and we can take our frisket and we can just peel it right on off of there. Sí, aquí ya podemos quitar nuestro frisket. Right, we have to just take it, peel it off. And this is why I love this particular frisket, is because it comes right off real easy. It's really low tack, you know, you don't have to worry about it sticking behind or leaving all kinds of residue or anything like that. You know. This piece. There we go. There is our Spider-Man. Nice and coming out of there. And if you really wanted to, come back in with some gray. So aquí ya, empezando con un gris, yo le voy a dar una sombra. I would if there was any gray in there. There's no gray left. I'm out of gray. What? Well, never mind. Bueno, le iba a dar una sombra, pero ahorita se acabó el gris. There's no more gray coming out. So I'm out of gray in the bottle, and I just don't want to get up right now and go fill it. But there you go. Actually, let me take this piece off. Cool. What's up, bro? How's it going? There you go, man. There you go. I hope you guys like it. I hope that helps some of you guys out. This is a pretty cool one for me. I like this one. I'm gonna keep this one. This will be going up in my wall. So hope you guys like it. I hope that helps some of you guys out. You know, if you having trouble with these lines, like I said, you can use a brush and just brush them in. You could come back at this point. I think I might actually, and just add a little bit of white highlights to some of these. Right? So aquí ya en este momento ya le pueden agregar luces altas a las líneas, ¿verdad? Y si tienen problemas con las líneas, es muy fácil con una brocha de agregarle las líneas sin tener tantos problemas, ¿verdad? There you go. That looks good. And again, this is pretty small. I mean, it's not very big. So hopefully you guys like that. Hopefully you help some of you guys out. As always, the links to these images are down in the description. You could find all the materials and everything that I used to make this down in the description as well. Using the links to all those helps the channel out. It helps bring you more videos like this. As always, if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you like, subscribe, share it out if you want to share it out. If you want to share it out with your friends, if you think your friends will benefit from watching this, or if you have a group where everybody shares your airbrushing videos, whatever, you know, share it out. It helps the channel out. It helps us grow. It helps bring you more videos like this. So ahí está, amigos, el diseño, el dibujo. Igual si tienen problemas con estas líneas, con una brocha es muy fácil. Los links para estas imágenes, para la plantilla, están abajo en la descripción. También para todos los materiales, para el aerógrafo que usé. Si usan esos links, ayuda al canal a traerles más videos como este. Y como siempre, ojalá les guste el video. Ojalá le puedan dar me gusta, suscríbanse y compartan en sus grupos de aerógrafo. Y sí, nos vemos en el video que sigue. Gracias, amigos. We'll see y'all guys in the next video. Thanks, everybody.